Heyo, my PlanCo friends, Johnny5 Live here, and welcome back to another episode of Project PlanCo. We're going big today, going downtown with 7 incredible downtown city builds. Definitely a jam-packed episode as I'm squeezing in 7, which is definitely more than anything we've tried to fit in all at once. Some of these builds will complete certain entire city block sections so we can see how everything looks all together with a whole row of buildings done. Some of these are starting to flesh out other areas that we haven't seen yet. And then we have some outliers in the back that should start to shape up and develop some of the newer areas that we haven't really touched. Tons of different builds going on in this one, tons of different things to look at. So why don't we get right on into it? Okay, we're kicking things off with City Building 19 from Pyrolectric, and I'm already seeing an issue that I didn't catch the first time with this guy. And we have these street lamps. Where can I put this? Maybe there? That should be okay-ish. Oh my god, you can. I don't know if you guys could hear this, if I had the volume loud enough, but these garbage cans and flies. Oh, they're noisy. So yeah, this is one of the earliest ones that was ever completed in the project. I think it was done the first day the project went live, and it was one of the ones I kicked back for feedback. I gotta say, already I'm looking at the build and it feels like it's less plain. It has a lot more noise and things going on. You added a little bit of blue in here, a storefront. They got something going on in here. What's this? Restless Pages, a little bit of a library. Cool. Oh my god, it's so noisy. I think you can actually select these. I guess you called it the Restless Library, but you can make it so the books are not. Yeah, you can activate on trigger, so they will stop. They should stop. Anyways, I'm pretty sure you can make it so they're just regular books. I've seen people do that before. Nonetheless, it's called the Restless Library, so I think we should just leave it. But I think that's definitely a nice addition, taking this kind of half commercial, half apartment building and then adding a commercial storefront, because it is a subway, right? So this is kind of like the city governmental stuff going on here where, you know, they got to pay for maintenance on all the flowers and the hedges, but then it's also integrated into what is an apartment building. Then you have commercial down below. So it's a nice mixture between the two. And I like what you've done up here. A little seating area, a lounge, some fountains, nice garden work. Again, adding that garden life to the tops of buildings is really bringing a lot of color and vibrance to the park, much like with what's been done over here. One of the things I gave for feedback was I said that this side of the building was very boring and plain. I guess you just added in a window here on the corner. I put this Planet Coaster sign in myself because I still felt like it was a bit boring and plain. And having that King Coaster symbol next to the actual King Coaster, I think it adds just a little bit more noise. So I went with that. I added that in, but I think overall the changes that have been made here are fantastic and the build's looking much better. There's a bunch of weird jank going on in here. It seems to be cleaned up for the most part. I know it's hard to work with the what was already pre-built there, because we're just slapping down a building on top of the subway. And while it does say subway, guys, it's not really a subway. It's a fake subway. We're gonna have to come down here and clean some of this stuff up later. As you can see, there's holes in the walls that can see through all sorts of crazy crap. We'll clean up the rooftops or put a roof on this or something and fix those walls later on. Lots of little polish work, but all it does is it takes you to the other side of the road. So it's a pretend subway. We don't actually have a subway system. We have a working monorail, but not an actual working subway. But it's okay to have that pretend. Basically what happens is the guests can't cross the street here because we have a go-kart race. And where the go-karts do not race, you can cross the street. So there are crosswalks for our guests because there are pathways on all of these sidewalks so that the guests can walk around. So in the case where, you know, the go-karts are going by, the guests can't actually walk. But in this case, like, they can walk across here because there's no go-kart or coaster, and they would go down here and come back up because we do have the go-kart going over top of it. So we need to find these ways to redirect the guests because they can't really get to the center of the park here, so that's why the subway system exists. So just a little behind the scenes there. But yeah, this build looks great. Pyrolectric, really good improvements here. I like the way that it turned out. I like the glass on the building. It was a snug fit. We do have a little bit of crashing here and that sort of thing with the church, but I think for the most part it's okay. You know, just a little bit of crashing, a little bit of clipping is fine. Now, I just want to address something before I really go into the next build. At the time of this recording, so this would be episode 17 for you guys, this is how far ahead I am. Episode 4 just went live today, and I'm reading your feedback in the comments of that video, and you guys are like, oh, I love watching you set them up. This is a perfect format. You've been doing great. Just keep it up. And some people are saying, I wish the episodes were longer. I thought the setup was like dragging out the process of showcasing these builds, and now I'm like, oh no, how many videos have I done now where I'm not showing the setup? And did I get too far ahead of myself? But I think there's a nice variety. I definitely have shown the setup on some builds, especially with the Pizza Bandit there. So hopefully it's not too bad. I'm so far into the future now that, you know, I'm afraid that maybe I strayed away from the way I was doing things, and you guys are missing out on certain content that otherwise could have been there. But I definitely know all of the episodes have been at least 20 to 30 plus minutes with a lot of stuff going on. So even though if I'm not setting them up, we're definitely taking a close look at everything and talking about things and showing you guys stuff. And I have made some few tweaks and stuff, adjustments live. So I hope everything's going good with the series. I hope you guys are enjoying it regardless of the changes that future Johnny made. But yeah, there's a lot to go over, and there's plenty more in the future. While this is the 17th episode, I suspect there's going to be dozens upon dozens upon dozens more, especially with all these future areas. So I will definitely get it down to a science and figure out what's best going forward. But I do appreciate your feedback, guys, so keep leaving it down below. I definitely take it all into consideration. Okay, let's go check out the next build. Boom! There it is. It's the Rubik's Cube building. It's building 21 by ThemeWorks, doing 3 Rubik's Cubes. We have one that's got a row turned, a full solve, and a full scramble. I'm a big fan of the Rubik's Cube. I have one myself. I solve it every time I'm loading this park. The park's taking a little bit longer to load now, so I could solve it a few times in the time it takes. I only know like a couple methods to solve the cube. I'm not the best at it. I think my best time to solve a Rubik's Cube is like 90 seconds. So I'm definitely not a speed solver by any means. But I love the Rubik's Cube. It's something I got into just a while ago and I got obsessed with, so I picked a few up. The ThemeWorks Modern Art Museum. Can we actually go in here? So, interesting shout out to ThemeWorks. So yeah, like ThemeWorks is the camera viewer in this game. So definitely a ring to PlanCo. We got a pink penguin out front as well. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Really cool modern build. Very cutesy. You have this small, tiny little corner plot, and I think you did something creative and artistic with it. What I really like about this build is the fact that you're going to see it from the monorail. Let's see if the monorail actually could squeeze by this Rubik's Cube or not. Just ever so barely. But yeah, you're going to be racing this go-karts down this street, so you're going to see that Rubik's Cube coming around the corner here. And I did already showcase a little demo of the go-karts in a previous video, but this was not really completed. What I'm really excited about with these go-karts is seeing what our Cosmic Kingdom park sign looks like. That's going to be a really cool focal point with the coasters in the back. But yeah, this is something you'll definitely see both on the go-karts and the roller coaster. So really cool corner piece. I'm glad you went with the Rubik's Cube and the art, because it does create for something interesting to look at for these dynamic rides. Really cool stuff there, ThemeWorks. Next up, a bit of a strange one because I don't really have a setup, but instead I have a transformation shot. I had a camera here, if you guys saw I probably did something in post where I faded from what it used to be and into what it is now. And Wormgar wasn't happy with the bank that he did. Oh, there goes the coaster. So he remade it, and it's called Needs More Banking. I kind of love the play on words because it's been something I've said a million times over this 6 years of doing Planet Coaster. I think this needs more banking in terms of coaster references. So yeah, this one's built by Wormgar. He basically redid what he already had here. The First National Bank of Plancodia or whatever. Because we didn't really know what we were calling this thing. I think we're going to leave it as Project PlanCo. Plancodia. I laughed so hard when I first saw this. I wish I didn't walk in here until recording, but welcome to the Blue Ball Bank. You're getting blue balled. Oh my god, it's ridiculous. It's silly. The coasters are going through the bank, which is really cool. These doors aren't working properly. Wormgar wants me to pass them back to the park, so when the coasters are ready to go, these bank doors will open up and you'll be going in through the bank building. That's going to look really cool. So yeah, we're getting one step closer to having the coasters ready. As you guys previously saw recently, we did the Pizza Planet coaster boarding station as well as the Chief Beef boarding station. Now that those are in, I figured we want to get the bank in because that's a thematic part of the coaster. And I definitely trying to get in as many of these buildings as possible, but I only have what is ready. You know, these buildings here are not submitted yet. So hopefully the buildings here get submitted before the actual coaster audio is ready so that we have that for scenery. If not, it's okay. We'll revisit the coaster another day and refeature it when the whole city's done, so you get a little bit more of that atmosphere. But obviously, I want to try to get in as much as I can, so we're working on this little section and all these builds are ready. So that brings us to the next build, building 22 by Hollywood. And there it is. So this one was a bit of a tight squeeze. I had to make some judgment calls. There was a gap here and I didn't like how we would see into here, and basically it kind of looked buggy. So if I brought it up really, really close, it seemed to resolve a lot of that buggy alleywayness, but we get this crashing as a result. And even if I didn't, there was still some crashing here. So it was going to crash no matter what. I figured it'd be better to crash the rooftop a little bit more. Plus, from the ground level, you probably don't even really notice. So yeah, but as a result of that, I had to bring out this curb or foundation just a little bit to flesh this gap. There's like a gap here, so I cleaned that up. But other than that, it's like a pretty snug fit. It looks like a really nice building. Yeah, it's super interesting. It matches and goes with the style of the bank next to it. Backside's looking really good too. So between this and the bank, I feel like they flow very naturally. You can also take a nighttime look at the builds that we've reviewed so far. Yeah, I like that alternating lights on there. Spectacular. Banking lighting's looking good. Same with the Rubik's Cube. And how's the subway? It's a little dim, but not too bad. Not too bad at all. Cool. Goosh. Okay. This one is like one of the ones that I should have probably recorded the setup on. This is the Madman's creation. He is a bit of a madman. I'm gonna have to get your feedback on this one because it does oppose some problems. I messaged him about it. I don't know what he's going to say or do, but I want to at least show you guys. What is this building number? 24. So if we just, let's get it to the light here. So if it goes on the ground like this, right? There was no sink me, hide me sign. So I just assumed I should line it up to these pillars, right? Let's get the pillars in the ground. So that was my best case, you know, my best judgment. But then you look at it, it's like, what? The whole building's still floating. What is happening here? And I suppose this is kind of like the way the Madman works. If you've seen some of his creations, and he just like puts pieces down pieces. He hyper details, but builds at like really insane rates and gets all these crazy pieces in. And I've noticed this from his previous parks. It's just like, there's just bugs everywhere. But like if you're on a coaster or whatever, you don't notice it. You don't notice that things are floating. It's only when you look up close, and it's almost like he built this as if it was part of one of his coaster rides, where it's like, you're gonna be going past this so fast you won't even know. It's, well, no, not really, because this is not on a coaster anymore. It's part of a walkthrough of a city. So that was an interesting thing. And he had this like marble floor. So obviously if we were to like line it up like that, that marble floor is supposed to be the ground, right? So we don't sink it in. In fact, it is just a bug. He did not notice this. He works so fast and crazy that he didn't notice that. Now, some of the other issues I'm having with this build is it didn't fill the volume cube. Volume cube came out right next and touched this blue one. Look how much of a space that is. It's such a large space that I could literally fit a pathway through here. Look at that. That is a big gap. I mean, when we're telling people to fill their volume cubes, we're okay if you go under or over just a little bit, but this is just a ridiculous amount. But I guess it's compensating for the roof. The roof actually fills the volume cube, but that doesn't really count. So now we have to design some sort of back alleyway, which I think is fine, but this is actually the front of the building, but it's the back. He gave me setup guides to line up to the coaster, and I lined that up perfectly. But when you line that up perfectly, what ends up happening is, look at the building. It's on the road. This is like where the guests walk. So the guests are going to be walking like right through here. And while I can just stuff a bunch of barriers in here so the guests have to walk around the building, that is a solution. I have not done that yet, but it's something I'm going to have to come back to if we just leave this the way it is. But my concern with the building coming out so far, because if I pushed it back like to the left here, the coaster goes right into the building, just crashes through everything. You know, like it has to be just the way it is right now currently. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't fit. So I placed this building properly, but we have this like issue here. It didn't fill the volume cube. Again, the volume cube did come out to here originally, but I guess the roof does. So he only filled the volume cube on the roof, but even not then, because it also came all the way out to here. But I guess the scaffold fits the roof. The build. So the building is actually like, it's very large. The roof is very wide, but it's very small of a build when you take in consideration how big the volume cube was. It has a lot of negative spaces, but then a lot of undulation and jutting. But the building itself is like rather kind of, it's pretty, but it's also pretty confusing, you know, like we have all these like weird issues, and I'm a QA artist. I used to be a QA artist for games, and I would just find bugs with art. And this one just drives me up the wazoo because this would not pass QA in a game. But that's where I'm like, okay, do I just leave it and forget about it? Or do I try to fix it? Oh crap, there's a light. So the reason this light is floating is because the reason that light was sticking through is because these windows were placed like this. I'm not even kidding you. They were floating like a foot off of the building. And I guess if you don't have reshade on, you might not notice it. But with the reshade shadows, I was like, what the heck is going on here? So I grabbed all those windows and pushed them back. And I guess there was a light in there. But the doors are also floating. And if we come to this back side, these windows are also floating. I guess from a distance, depending on the angle, you don't really notice it. And that's where I have to like shut my QA brain off. But pretty much every single piece on this building at a closer inspection either has gaps, bugs, brokenness, floatingness, crashing, clipping, flickering. There's not a single build piece here. It's all made out of scenery pieces. And as a result, there is a ton of issues. Like even there's like a hole back here. The longer I look at this build, the more I lose my sanity. I just absolutely lose my shit as a QA tester. Like I feel like something here needs to be fixed because you're gonna see this. You can see a hole in the building. I didn't even notice that the first time. Like, that's what I'm trying to say is the more you look at this build, the more it'll drive you insane. And it's like, even these windows, they're doors, but there's like gaps. Why are these walls made out of doors? There's handles all over it. The whole wall is made out of doors. And then if you go to night, you can see through all of these windows and there's just a bunch of nothing inside. And I'm just like, oh my God. But if you just kind of like squint your eyes and look at the build from a distance, you're like, oh, that's a pretty nice build. I guess. But I look closer and I just start to lose my sanity. And I guess, you know what? This is a madman build. He is called the Madman for a reason. And this building does drive me mad. So I guess it all makes sense. But part of me wants to say, we're sending this building back, redo it. But it's in the park now, so it's going to be a pain in the ass to delete because you're going to have to literally delete this piece by piece. So I'm kind of like, it's whatever. Now, my biggest concern with the build is the fact that it walks over the pathway. Like I said, I can fix this with barriers, sure, and the guests will walk around. But it's literally, like, this is supposed to be a road, a pretend road. Imagine driving down the street and there was a building suddenly on the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we go back and look at the sightlines here, there's a building on the road. I don't even know what to say. Now, this is where I also think it might be okay, is it's the building at the very back of the road. So we can just, like, maybe what we can do is end the road early, you know, and do something like this. Whoops. Do something like that, I guess. and then that way the road just comes to a dead end there. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. Luckily, this is less of an issue here, but like, I think if Madman would have had some of these glaring issues in any of the other plots where things are much tighter, it would have been a complete disaster. But because he's kind of in the back corner on his own, we can sort of fix the park around it. We can decorate this alleyway. We can somehow fix this road, because in most places, the road it's one road. It's one road. It's one road. It's one road. This is the only spot in the entire park, I believe, that it's a double road. And what I mean by that is the guests can walk on this path and this path. This was meant to be a sidewalk and this was meant to be a road. So the building is on the road. So if there was cars and traffic, it becomes a single, it goes from a 2-lane road to a one lane road. But like I said, we can probably adjust the back half of the park somehow so that the road ends early or something like that. I don't really know what the solution is. I think once the German buildings are in and the giant German town is in, I think it'll be fine. Like I said, it's in the back of the park. It's kind of tucked off to the side. It only seems like an issue if you're driving down this road. It seems a little off. It's not in the central, crossroads, intersections. It's really just tucked off way back there. So I just think we gotta find solutions for this later on and see what we can do to like jazz it up and make it make more sense. I've said this a dozen times throughout the series so far. We are not city planners, and it's okay if certain things don't entirely make sense, but this isn't an ideal situation. and looking at this will drive my QA bug brain crazy. So it's in now, and I'm never coming to this back half of the park ever again. I don't want to see it. I don't want to walk up close to it. The only time I have to look at it is when we're going fast on a coaster, because I will look at this all day and go, okay, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? And I will end up spending hours on this build when it's really, if you look at it from a distance, it's fine. So I'm just never going to go close ever again. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Obviously, I am giving Madman a hard time. I'm pointing out clear flaws where there are. What is this pillar even doing here? Why is this floating? What is this? Like I said, I cannot look at this any longer. It's going to drive me absolutely mad. So, I mean, I've loved every single Madman creation I've ever seen in the past. He somehow cohesively makes his parks and everything mad. But when it's a one-off building next to these perfectly constructed, pixel perfect, symmetric builds, it literally defragments my mind. So let me know what you guys think of the Madman's build in the comments down below. Do you think these problems are something we can fix, or do we start a riot and make him redo the building? I don't know. For now, I think it's fine. I'm gonna leave it and just move on with life before I lose my sanity. Okay, so let's do exactly that. Pop. Here it is. This is building 28 by comms. It's supposed to be a motel, and it is exactly that. It's the Sedgwick Hotel. I guess there's some nice Sedgwick signs in Planet Coaster. Bit of like a motel vibes, I guess. I usually feel like hotels are super tall and motels are short, like 2 or 3 floors. So I guess it's more of a motel than a hotel, but it fit the volume cube pretty nicely too. It was one of the more tricky buildings because I'm glad that the builder just committed. There's technically like terrain crashing, and I think they just assumed that I would fix that, and I did. So it was a good assumption to make on the builder's half. But with that, they knew the terrain was back here, so they didn't do any windows or back decorations, and I think that was the right call to make. So yeah, it's fit snug as a glove. No issues here for me. There's like a little bit of a curb thing going on. I mean, it didn't line up just perfectly, but I think I offset it askew here. But yeah, it went in nicely. I didn't realize, yeah, there was a hotel room here, so I ran the path out to here, but I noticed that later on. For the most part, the guests do not walk around in here. It's just for presentation. And they sell Monsieur Frites and Le Vin Sepp. There's the kitchen back there. So bringing a little bit of France from over there over to here. There were, I added these umbrellas in. For most hours of the day, it has shade from the awning, and it gets shade from the building when the sun is setting. So it's only at like 2 p.m. where the sun really beams down. I set it to this time so we can get a better look at it. But yeah, it's at about 2 p.m. p.m., these guys are just getting cooked. So I put 3 umbrellas in. And I thought it looked kind of nice. It matched with what you already had here. These are all custom little tables and seating. Oh no. Oh no. It's like the madman, because he's like right next to you. The madness has trickled over. We even have flickering floors. Oh no. This is what you get for being the madman's neighbor. I'm gonna pretend I didn't see those flickering floors. I can't help myself but fix all of these chairs now. This is kind of what I keep telling builders is, you know, double check your work. We even have QA. We have Lisa looking at things, and this is not Lisa's fault by any means, or Wormgar. I'm not sure if Lisa or Wormgar looked at this one, but we do have a QA team that looks for these bugs. They send stuff back when it needs to be fixed. This build here didn't have sink me, hide me signs. It has floating chairs, and I think if QA caught, and it does have flickering floors, which is really bananas to look at. So QA should have definitely kind of double checked this stuff, but it's hard to notice because I didn't even notice at first. It's only when you take a closer look. If I was building this build and I put my first thing in, because when you built it, you're like, okay, let's like line it up and put it in now. How do you not notice this? And that's a message to who built this one? Is it I might have said the wrong name. I think this was Tauroskhan. That's right. I didn't put the name in yet. Tauroskhan. There we go. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Tauroskhan. I don't know. Either way, yeah, when you're putting these in, it's something that to keep an eye on. Building your builds, take a close look at everything you're doing. Other than that little bug there and adding my own umbrellas, I think the build is beautiful. It's got a lot of color, it's got a lot of detail, a lot of vibrance to it, complexity, some greenery on the top. It's great. It's an awesome little motel. I love everything about it. Really nicely done. And it fits the corner of this little area quite nicely. So really nicely done, Tauroskhan. Nope, guys, I had it backwards. This was Comms that made this. Whoops, Comms. There you go, buddy. Sorry for mixing those up. Okay, last but not least, this is Tauroskhan's build. And yeah, we got like this little, to me, this feels like a greenhouse. But apparently they have live music, a garden patio, and all are welcome. Okay, let's go in and take a look. We got a pink penguin dance floor. People having a good time here. It kind of feels like a little bit of a cafe. Security guard. And then a cute little garden area where people are chilling out. I get a lot of mixed vibes with this build because I would have just made it a floral shop. It looks like a greenhouse, but to turn it into a nightclub is very interesting. Now, this music is constantly on loop and it's gonna drive me insane. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fix it. I kind of showed this off in the last video on how to fix this particular. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna put down display speakers. 1, 2. We're gonna delete these old ones, and the music was Planet Euphoria. So now that those are gone, we're gonna add sequencers, and I'm just gonna put this on the like right in front of the pink penguin, because why not? And now we're gonna move the speakers into place where the other 2 were. Okay, and these are the display speakers. Now what you do is you take the trigger sequencer, and then, god damn it, Fizzy. Stop knocking stuff over. We're gonna go in here, and it was Planet Euphoria. There it is, Planet Euphoria. And now that it has the song attached, we're gonna add speakers. And we go grab this one, and hit confirm. Now these are added in. Now when we go to our sequencer, we have to make a trigger sequence, which is kind of confusing. Then you're going to add a display group, and the display group is going to automatically be added in. It's the display group that is attached to it, which is the 2 speakers that we attached to it. The duration that we set here is that of the play length. And then we just hit done. Now when I hit play on this, we get 30 seconds of music. Now can I edit the volume? It's pretty loud. Yeah, I think the only downside to this setup here is I have no idea how to actually adjust the volume of it, which is a bit of an oversight from the developers. Really what there should be is a volume for each of the speakers, but you cannot change the volume. And in the case that you use it from the sequencer, I mean, the sequencer will the volume of all the speakers together. So the connected speakers, there should be a volume group here, or like a volume thing right here, because I can play it here. I should be able to adjust the volume here. So that is actually surprising to me that that is not a thing. I thought maybe you could edit the volume through the sequencer, but that doesn't appear to be a thing either. So that is a bit unfortunate, but that's how I would like people to do their music, so it's not constantly on loop, because as we have all these different sounds in the city, that's going to be extremely loud. But if you come in here, you want to get the vibes, grab the sequencer, hit play. Here we go. Bum, bum, have a good time. Burn, 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 burn. And now we don't have that loud music constantly like this, where you literally hear it from everywhere. It's a little bit on the loud side, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what the proper solution is. I thought that would be the solution, but maybe not. It is super loud. The fact that you can't change the volume doing that method, it is a little bit sad. So, and having it constantly playing is also sad. I can't think of a different solution. It's either it's always playing but not as loud, or you can play it on when you push the button and it's super loud. There's no happy middle ground solution, is there? And if you guys could think of one, let me know down in the comments below. But I played with all three methods of doing kind of music, and none of them seem to be ideal. The best thing would be is if the game had area speakers or volumes. Like, if I were to program this game personally, what I would do is make it so when you put a speaker down, I put it down, and when I select it, there's a radius, right? Like a circle. And I can make that circle bigger or smaller. You only hear the music when you enter that circle, the little bubble. And that way I can have a small bubble here, another one here, and the volume of the music is all within this area. That way I only ever hear the music, whoop, when I enter the bubble space. That's how I would have designed it. So yeah, that would be the solution, but unfortunately it does not exist. Let's hope Park Beyond or Planet Coaster 2 does something like that. For the meantime, we have to either trigger it ourselves like this crappy way, or just have it constantly rattling off in the background on infinite loop. And I don't really like either of those options at this point, but it is what it is, isn't it? So there you go. That's the build from Tauroskhan there. A nice little cute build on the corner, a little grow up, a little greenhouse. A lot of builds gone into this episode. We had the bank, the Rubik's Cube, this nice little residential apartment building, this building that's driving me absolutely bananas, a beautiful little motel, and our subway. With that being said, the subway being in, check this out. All of this build, this whole block, this whole district, this chunk around the King Coaster himself is all officially in. Nothing missing there. So the very center of our city, the heart of the city, is completed. Very, very, very cool. Love to see it, you guys. All right, so even though I haven't been doing the setup and I read the feedback from episode 4 today that was released, and this is future Johnny working way ahead, there's still a lot to show you guys. There's still a lot to talk about. So hopefully you're still enjoying the series, the current format that I've decided to go with just quickly plopping the buildings in and then talking about them after. I still think they're lengthy episodes with tons to showcase, and I'm trying to get as many builds in as possible so that we don't end up having like 50 episodes of me placing buildings. And I've also tried to mix in some nice rides in between. So we're doing our best, still having a great time. Now I think we're about like 50 or 60% of the builds in the park, which is phenomenal. So there you guys go. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in the next one. Bye now.